Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Better Relationships After Baby. I'm Chelsea. Today, I just heard something. I just heard this concept shared on a podcast that I found because I have done meditations with David G for about the past year. Like, he is just my favorite guided meditation instructor to listen to. But he also does a podcast called The Shadow and the Light, along with Elizabeth Winkler, who I learned through listening is a psychotherapist and works with a lot of couples. So I instantly tuned in. I wanted to hear what they were talking about, and they got into this concept that I guess has an acronym. I had not heard it before this, but it's JED, JED, justify, explain, defend. And she broke down why we are wired to justify, explain, and defend ourselves, and then how mindfulness can help us grow past that tendency. And my mind was blown when I heard this, not because it feels like this whole new concept, but just because it has its own acronym. And these are things that I talk to my clients a lot about, and we identify these patterns, but I've never heard it put this way in this acronym of justify, explain, and defend. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about what I learned, how this applies to our relationships, and some practical steps that you can take to shift out of that JED cycle. It makes so much sense, right? We justify ourselves, we explain ourselves, we defend ourselves, and this can be such a big part of the tumultuous cycle people get into in bad communication and arguments and just feeling stuck. So, in this, Dr. Winkler explained that humans are naturally inclined towards JED because of how our brains are wired. So, when someone questions us or we feel misunderstood, that first instinct is often to justify why we did something, explain our thought process, or defend ourselves against criticism. Okay, like boom. Yes, you've probably experienced this in your relationship in your life today. If not today, then certainly this week. It probably sounds familiar to a lot of you. And the issue isn't that we are justifying ourselves or explaining ourselves. That's not a bad thing. But the issue is that we're often doing it reactively. You guys have heard me talk about proactive and reactive communication. And if you haven't, search that episode in the archives of the Better Relationships After Baby podcast. But I talk about bringing in more proactive and less reactive, because reactive communication is always escalating the tension instead of fostering understanding. It takes more time, more energy, more hurt comes out in trying to get to the point in the resolution. And so the more we can cut out that reactive communication, the better. So JED is a way that we can start to identify that and move to a better way. So in relationships, JED can become that pattern that feels like a tug of war, right? You are maybe discussing parenting decisions like screen time for the kids. What a hot, fun topic. One partner says, I think they're on their tablets too much. And the other partner might immediately jump into JED mode. But I've been so busy. This is the only way I could get through the day. While the intent behind JED might be to clarify or protect yourself, it often leaves that other person feeling unheard, or worse, like the conversation is now a debate. Like, oh, I tried to say something and now we're in this debate. So the good news is you can step out of the JED cycle. I want to give you some strategies that you can try. And of course, if you want to really dig into this and move through it, I would be happy to help you personalized through coaching. This first one is to pause before reacting. So when you feel the urge to justify, explain, or defend, just take a breath. Take one breath, okay? Instead of immediately responding, ask yourself, what does my partner need from me right now? Sometimes they're looking for acknowledgement, not an explanation. Practice that active listening. So shift the focus from defending your point to truly hearing theirs. Use phrases like, I hear you saying, it sounds like. This shows that you actually value their perspective instead of figuring out how you're going to put your iron fist up against what they have to say and defend yourself. Number 3 is check your ego. Jed often comes from a place of defensiveness. So remind yourself this is not a battle. You don't have something to win here. You're on the same team, working towards understanding and not scoring points. And then introduce mindfulness. As Dr. Winkler pointed out in the podcast episode that I will also put in the show notes because I really think you guys would enjoy listening to that too if you are interested in this. She goes way more in detail with the science and practice of this. But she pointed out that mindfulness actually helps rewire these instinctive patterns. So practices like meditation or journaling can make you more aware of your reactions and give you the tools to respond thoughtfully instead of reactively. The way I do this with my clients is I tell them to get curious, try to take one step away from that reactive feeling that you have and get curious about where is this coming from? What do I feel like I need to defend? What past wound is this bringing up? It helps you to have the right tools and information in front of you to address something in a productive way. And in case you're not already like, hell yeah, I'm going to really focus on this, let me tell you a couple of reasons why I see this worth working on. First of all, strengthening that connection between the two of you. So when you stop reacting defensively some of the time and then most of the time, progressively your conversations become more productive. They become more compassionate. You're able to see yourself and your partner in a kind, accepting way. And that foundational connection is such a huge benefit to you doing life together. Number 2, it's improving that problem solving. So with less energy spent justifying and defending, you can actually focus that energy and time, which are limited resources, on finding solutions together instead of staying stuck and reducing the tension. If you can work on this and build some of these skills in, you are going to feel more seen, more heard, more understood. And that is going to prevent those arguments from escalating. And here's the thing, this isn't just about your partner. So addressing Jed in your personal life also can improve how you interact with coworkers, friends, and even yourself. So I think it's worth it. Whether you call it by the name Jed or whether you call it by your own terms, like I have been doing for years. But if you find yourself stuck in that cycle of justifying, explaining, and defending, okay, you're not alone. There's reasons why. There are multiple discussions on it because these patterns are deeply ingrained. But as Dr. Winkler shared, and as we just know because we're growing humans, they don't have to be permanent. So I offer coaching as a space to explore these tendencies in a supportive and judgment-free way. So if that's something that you're curious about, let's talk about how I can support that journey for you, how I can provide you with the prompts and the places to explore and discuss and practice and have accountability and support along the way. So I hope that you have fun learning a little bit more about the concept of Jed and how it's showing up in your life. I know that I am going to be thinking about it very much through the next few days and, just seeing where I also have those tendencies. But I find that the more we have the tools and support to understand ourselves, our partner, and what we're looking for out of life, the more we can increase the really beautiful, wonderful connections that we love to have with our partners and just in our life, and decrease the tense, nasty, discouraging ones. And I think that is what we're all going for here.